Yo, what it do, brothers? You're not tuned in all that rah-rah with your Hebrew brother, Milo Judah. What's going on, brothers? So, brothers, Terence Bud Crawford is a fighter that I would consider a all-time great boxer already, while he is 37 years old with 41 wins, 0 losses, right? And with his performance over Errol Spence, I personally, a lot of people may disagree, honestly, but I personally would put Terence Bud Crawford in the realm of a Sugar Ray Leonard. Bud showed some wrinkles in that fight that I personally didn't think that he had. And even though, a lot of people will say that Errol Spence, myself included, will say that Errol Spence didn't necessarily look the same. He looked slow. He looked like he was in the mud. He couldn't take a jab. His punch resistance was horrible. Some people would say that's due to him being weight drained. Some people would say that's due to the car accidents. Either way, he got in the ring with Terence Bud Crawford and got his ass whooped. Right? So, therefore, you have to give Bud his credit because Bud outboxed him up and down and he beat his ass. So, even when it comes to Bud moving up to 154 pounds and fighting Israel Madrimov, a lot of people aren't necessarily too satisfied with that victory that he had over Israel Madrimov. But to me, Bud fought a pretty good fight. He had a hard fight for his first fight at 154 for a belt, and he earned it. Now, what I will say is him moving up to 168 pounds to fight Canelo, with Bud having the skill set that he has, if he is able to keep Canelo off of him and the extra weight doesn't, slow him down or tire him out in the later rounds when Canelo likes to really turn it on and, punch your arms and throw the hooks that he throws, because Bud does have the speed and the accuracy to catch him in between his hooks. But like I said, if that slows him down or whatever the case may be, if he can't hurt Canelo, then that's going to be an extremely tough fight for him. I personally would favor Canelo, but I want Bud to win that fight. But with all that being said, there is always going to be someone who believes that they are better than you at what you do, no matter how great you are at what you do. Right? And when you are at the top of the proverbial mountain, then people are naturally going to want to knock you off. People are working just as hard as you, if not harder. And people are going to want to be at the top and say that they knocked off the man who was at the top to get to the top. Right? So, brothers, there is an article out stating that, there's a champion with a 75% knockout ratio who states that he will destroy Bud Crawford's legacy and that Bud Crawford does not want to fight him, which may be true to an extent as far as Bud won't fight him. I'm not necessarily too sure about him destroying Bud's legacy because Bud is an extremely slick fighter and he is hard to beat. But what I will say in regards to him saying Bud won't fight him, Bud is at a stage in his career at 37 years old, and I believe he will be 38 around September or something like that, that he is looking for fights where he will make the most financially, right? Those fights are the fights that make the most sense to him. And if they are fights that will be legacy defining where he also makes the most money, then, that's a 2-for-1. So it makes sense that he's trying to fight Canelo Alvarez. Now, what I will say is there are rumors that Canelo is going to be fighting Jake Paul. And initially, when I started to record this video, it was February 5th. But now it's February 7th, and it has basically been confirmed that Canelo will be fighting Jake Paul. So that is pretty much a tune-up for Canelo Alvarez. So what I will say is, while Terence Bud Crawford has time, he should try to take him a tune-up at 168 pounds as well, which even still may be tough because that is a big jump in weight. And Terence Crawford did look human, to say the least, while fighting Israel Madrimov. He didn't knock him down. He definitely didn't stop him. I will say he stunned him, but I mean, Israel was able to continue to fight. You know, he was very slick, was using a ton of feints. He was punching Bud back as well. He was definitely catching Bud with his right hand. So at this point in Terence Bud Crawford's career, it's not necessarily any reason for him to take unnecessarily tough fights. Now, if he wants to, you know, and that would give the fans what they want, then more power to him. But I don't necessarily see him making extremely tough fights where they aren't necessarily lucrative for him, unless, you know, Turkey Al-Sheikh convinces him to get into the ring with someone. But I doubt he would fight a Jerron Boots Ennis. I have been seeing rumblings on social media that Turkey Al-Sheikh wants him to fight Jerron Boots Ennis. What I will say is I'm not a fan of Turkey Al-Sheikh announcing all these, you know, imaginary fights, stating that he's trying to get such and such into the ring, Jerron Ennis and Teofimo Lopez, or, you know, Ryan Garcia and Pitbull Cruz, Isak Pitbull Cruz. Right, so I would much rather the negotiations be done in private and the fight be announced when the fight is going to be announced. But anyway, if Terence Crawford lands the fight with Canelo Alvarez, that fight is going to be extremely tough anyway, but at least he is going to be paid handsomely for it. But let's go ahead and get down to reading this article. So the article, which is on secondsout.com, reads, world champion with 75% KO ratio says he destroyed Terence Crawford's legacy. He won't fight me. Terence Crawford looks set to face Saul Canelo Alvarez, leaving behind the super welterweight after just one fight, right, which I stated he fought Israel Madrimov. It says the bout, a points win over Israel Madrimov, came out October 2024 and made the American pound-for-pound star a four-weight world champion. Rather than stick around to unify the belts and perhaps become undisputed, something he has done in 2 of his 4 previous divisions. Well, like I stated in the intro to this video, that Terence Bud Crawford, in my opinion, is already an all-time great fighter. And like the article just said, he's already been undisputed in 2 of his 4 previous divisions. So therefore, and also he's the only male fighter to do that, which also means he's the first male fighter to do that if someone comes behind him and does that as well. So he will always have that under his belt. Therefore, it's not necessarily a reason. And, you know, this is just me thinking as if I'm Terence Bud Crawford, but it's not necessarily a reason for him to want to stick around at the super welterweight division or 154 pounds and try to attain, you know, another undisputed title. He's already done it twice. So now it's just about, you know, legacy fights and fights that will make him the most money. And like I stated, if he can get both of those in the same fight, then he has a 2-for-1, which is what he has with Canelo. Right, but it says Bud is slated to move up to super middleweight for the Canelo mega fight. If those plans fail for whatever reason, Bakram Murtazalev is waiting in the wings. The undefeated Russian won the vacant IBF super welterweight world title in April last year by stopping Jack Calkay in 11 rounds. Right, and if you ever seen Bakram Murtazalev fight, in my opinion, he puts me in the mindset almost like a Artur Beterbiev. Right, he comes right at you. He's punching very hard. Right, the way he beat Tim Tszyu in about 3 rounds, it was just crazy. It was just crazy. He dismantled Tim Tszyu. Now, what I will say is Terence Bud Crawford is not Tim Tszyu. He is going to move around. He's not going to stand right in front of you and let you just punch him. But even still, you know, he's getting up there in age. Anybody can be caught. So Therefore, if I'm going to be getting caught, I need to be getting paid handsomely for it. Right, so it says his first defense really put him on the map, a 3-round destruction of Tim Tszyu, like I just said. Speaking to Manuk Akopian, the 32-year-old made it clear that he wants to collect more belts or wanted to collect more belts. I would like to fight Crawford or WBC champion Sebastian Findor, maybe both. Murtazaliev, however, is realistic in his chances of landing the fight. Crawford has reportedly struck a deal with Canelo, likely leaving his WBA belt behind, which I completely understand. It says the IBF champion believes he is too high risk for Bud, and that the defeat he would be so confident of delivering will hurt the pound-for-pound star's legacy. Well, I'm not necessarily sure that he would defeat Bud, but he is supposed to have that confidence that he would do it himself. Right? And what I do believe is that he is high risk for Bud. And it's high risk, low reward, because like I stated, his last fight really put him on the map when he defeated Tim Tszyu. Most people didn't know who he was. You know, most casuals, when they still want to know who he is, you have to go and look him up. I don't think most casuals necessarily know who Tim Tszyu or Sebastian Findor is. Right, so it goes on to say, Crawford fighting me is taking a big chance because he can lose. If he loses all of his work for all of those years, people are going to turn against him like, oh yeah, he was not the best. If he goes up and fights Canelo, that's 2 different weight classes. Nobody's going to say he messed up. They'll say that's too heavy for him. He tried. That's why the Crawford probably wouldn't fight. He said the Crawford. It says Murtazaliev is instead likely to make a voluntary defense before seeking out Findor, who puts his WBC belt on the line against Chordal Booker on March 22nd in Las Vegas. Right, so just going back to the quote, it says Crawford fighting me is taking a big chance because he can lose. Well, anybody can lose on any given day. And then it says if he loses all of his hard work for all of those years, people are going to turn against him, which is sad, but in boxing, especially nowadays, it's extremely true because the fans are extremely toxic. And also, you know, the boxers, they really do care about their zeros, right? So Bud being 41-0, he doesn't want to lose his O to, you know, Bakram Murtazaliev. And like I stated earlier in the video, that would be an extremely tough fight, but just seeing Bud fight in his fights over the years, I don't think Bakram Murtazaliev would be able to just walk Terence Bud Crawford down like that, but you never know. The power at 154 pounds is different, and Bud did not get the stoppage over Israel Madrimov. Right, but I do believe Bud has the power. I know Bud has the power to keep someone off of him. But even still, you just never know. Anyone can be caught. But I don't think Bakram Murtazaliev would destroy Terence Bud Crawford's legacy. Terence Bud Crawford is a great fighter, extremely skilled fighter, right? He's a generational talent, and he's an all-time great. But even still, at this stage in his career, I don't see any benefit with him getting in the ring with, you know, an individual like Bakram Murtazaliev. It will give him points with the fans, though, right? And say that he took on tough fights later on in his career, whether he won or lost. But people who are not, you know, truly Terence Bud Crawford fans or truly fans of the sport, they will turn on him. And I'm not a Terence Bud Crawford fan. I am a fan of the sweet science, and I appreciate, you know, Bud's ability to display the sweet science, no doubt. But, you know, so-called black man, you should be a fan of no man. You should be a fan of the Most High. You should love the Most High, right? That's who you should admire. That's who you should idolize, the Most High. And if you are going to be a fan of a man, let that man be your father. But with all that being said, brothers, that's all that real and rare analysis. I do not believe Bakram Murtazaliev will destroy Terence Bud Crawford legacy if they fought, but there is a chance that Terence Bud Crawford can lose. So, with that being said, man, yo.